Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And today we're going to talk on this episode about breaking the cycle of self-doubt in your relationship. Say that 5 times fast. And I want to give a couple of areas that I know that we can tend to cycle. And so maybe you cycle and spiral in your head with doom thinking, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, you're just in your head spiraling and it does not feel good. That's one area that we can cycle in self-doubt. Another area might be in the actual interaction of your relationship. So you're hanging out and your reassurance meter just went down and you kind of go in the cycle and you ask them repeatedly, tell me you like me, tell me you love me, things like that. You're kind of seeking that constant validation from them. I also noticed this cycle when I look back in myself. I would go through these cycles of hyper independence where my self-doubt would kind of go in the other side of the spectrum where I had to prove it to myself that I could make it. I don't need no man and I can do it on my own. So just calling all the flavors out there. If any flavor of that is you, then this is the episode for you. And if you're new here, my name is Claire. I'm a relationship coach and I love helping high-performing, overachieving girlies who are slaying in the corporate ladder, or you're killing it in the career, or you're in academia, or you're slaying it in the street smart way, where you've got like a bunch of real estate. And all that might be true, and you're hitting the goals, you're overachieving, but at the same time you are sucking at relationship. This is the right spot for you. You're hanging out with your girl because I've been there. And I also just want to say, if you are enjoying this podcast or any of the other episodes, also little hint here, little inside scoop is that I don't edit my podcasts. This is like literally one shot. If you don't believe me, watch YouTube. It's just one take. I don't have time. And if you are watching wherever you're watching or wherever you're listening, Spotify or Apple, hitting the 5 stars means so much. Literally, it's just me and the camera, but I am literally feeling and thinking of you here as you're listening, and I just feel like we're on the phone talking. So, and I don't get an answer back. So the 5 stars is what lets me know to keep going. Okay. So I want to dive into this topic because part of the reason this can feel like a cycle, and when I say cycle, I really mean it's just a pattern. And if you take a moment to look back at how long this has been going for you, I'm going to guess it's been a while. I mean, even now, mostly all of my clients are in relationship. I have a handful that are navigating breakups or they're navigating being single, but a good portion of them, I'd say like more than 50%, are in relationship. And what I know is that when we look back, we do an inventory, and I want you to just check yourself right now. How long have you really been struggling with this anxiety? And it may not even just be in relationship. That just might be one area that it's really amplified in. But a lot of times when we do that inventory, how long they've been worried about approval or validation or being liked by somebody has been a long time. And that is part why it feels like it's so hard to break out of the cycle. This is kind of like I have lived in Colorado for over 13 years, probably more like 15 now. I don't even know. I haven't done the math. But if you ski or snowboard, you get this. But it's like first tracks, right? If something is fresh and it's new, you're the first one at the top of the mountain, the snow is like pristine, you get to lay down first tracks. It's really easy to change direction, right? Now, bear with me. If you have skied or snowboarded, is that a verb? I don't know. But if you've done that in spring, and first of all, there's not a lot of snow, and it's kind of later in the day, the tracks are deep. It's like trying to get down that cat track is just impossible, right? And the tracks are really deep. And it's not that different in our brains and in how our cycles work, how we see situations and how we perceive things, how we play things out. So it's, yes, I'm saying you're old. I'm certainly getting older. But really, it's the same in our psychology, our physiology, like how literally your body responds when it feels like there's separation or there's distance. You literally have all these different mechanisms to get safety. And I don't even know where I saw this, but I just felt like it was so apt to talk to and bring to the table today when it comes to breaking these cycles. And it really breaks down to what you give your conscious thoughts to, okay? What you consciously give your time to. So if you are consciously in this space where you are thinking the thoughts of whatever bad thing is going to happen, when you consciously give your attention to it, I call it like scratching the itch, right? Or picking the pimple. Like, y'all know we're not supposed to pick the pimples, right? But how many of you pick them? I do sometimes. But what you consciously give your time and attention to, it literally is creating the person and eventually the situation that you become. Now, this is very, very different than I thought something and it happened. Like, I love you so, 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 so much, but that is not what's happening. Okay, I love you, but that is ill-informed and short-sighted and immature. It's like, just, that's, if that was the case, if we think something and it happened, then we'd all be hitting like the mega millions. Okay, like, not what happens. But there is there is a domino effect. There is different things that happen that creates that. And when I look at the specific thing that a lot of times keeps us in these cycles, is that we are consciously, it starts unconsciously, but then we choose to give those thoughts the time. We choose to give those negative things the attention, and it creates who we are. It creates, when I say who we are, I mean, you are not your body. You're actually something much more divine and aligned than that. But it creates this physicality of what we experience. And what keeps us in this cycle and how we break out of it, in order to break it, we have to understand what's happening. Every time we entertain the belief that doesn't serve us, so that can look like they're going to leave me, or I'm not good enough, or I didn't do that right, and so we got into a fight. Every time you entertain that type of belief that doesn't serve you, I hate to break it to you, you're reinforcing it. You're making it stronger. Okay, so every time you feed the thing inside you that doesn't need to be fed, you are reinforcing it. You're making it stronger. It's just like reps in the gym, right? The more you flex that muscle, the more you give it time and space and energy, you're actually reinforcing it. And I will also say this. In order to break the cycle, again, it's understanding why we do it. Sweetheart, it's easier. It is easier to go down the track that has the path that has a well-worn steps. So again, Colorado, if my husband and I are in a field, it's just snowing, and the snow is really deep, I'm not going to walk beside him. I'm going to follow his footsteps because it's easier. The tracks are already there. So I also just want to say, part of the reason why you're stuck in the cycle and you're not able to break the cycle is that it's easier. Okay, it's not because you are trying. It's because literally you're just trying to place your feet where it's familiar, and it's just easier. There's less traction. There's less friction. If I'm walking in the snow and I'm trying to make a new path and I'm slogging through the snow, why would I do that? It's just easier to follow the path, right? And so these pathways, like literally, physiologically, in your body, in your mind, it's easier to go down the path that you've gone down. So one of the key things to breaking the cycle is starting to be aware of where you're consciously and unconsciously giving the time and attention to the things that aren't serving you. You would not believe, like, literally, when I walk this through in my community in the Healing Girl Gang with my one-on-one clients, it's actually that simple. Like, how can you cultivate enough consciousness and awareness in that split second, in that moment, that you're feeding the thing that doesn't need to be fed? Now, that's one piece of it. And the other thing is, of course, this sounds simple, but it's not easy. Like, literally, it's not easy. And so you have to go into it with the tools to cultivate awareness, and also the support, and also the grit and the commitment that it takes, the accountability that it takes to actually do it, because it's not because it's overly complicated. It's actually because you're not used to doing it that way. So I literally think about this, and if you didn't know, I used to have a background in fitness. I mean, I've talked about this in different episodes, but I was a strength coach for a long time, a personal trainer. I had my own online business, and I was the only female head strength and conditioning coach in Denver Public Schools. Thank you very much, for 5 years. But I literally think about when I was really into my whole life revolved around fitness, where I was in the gym every day, literally working, or I was working out. I was teaching students. I was taking classes. I was teaching classes. Like, literally for me, not going to the gym was hard because, well, there was more along with that. I had some compulsions there to look at. But it literally just was part of my life, okay? And that worked until it didn't work. I had a total body reset. And now that I'm recommitting to working out, I am seeing that actually how these cycles play out. Honestly, it is easier and nicer to sleep in. I have to get up early because of the way our family works. We travel full time. We're a one-car family. It's easier for me. It would be easier for me just to sleep in and to not go to the gym. I have to be conscious. I have to have strategies in place to make getting up early in the morning to get my workout in. I have to be strategic. I have to support myself. And it's hard. Even with all the support and all the strategy, at the end of the day, being conscious and choosing to heal really takes it's not easy. It's difficult, right? So in order to break the cycle, I think a lot of us need to really understand is that it's not hard because it's complicated. It's hard because it's different. It's new. And so I just say that with so much love, and that's just the reality that we have to bring consciousness. We have to recognize that it's something that is different, and inherently that's probably going to make it harder. Okay? And just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not worth it. Just because going and getting up early and getting to the gym and lifting and doing heavy weights, just because there's challenge in that doesn't mean it's not worth it. You picking up what I'm laying down? Okay. So I want to answer the mailbox because in the Healing Girl Gang, we have really fun opportunities for me to answer questions. And it's super exciting because this is something that I have really wanted in my community. Also in the Healing Girl Gang, this is where we do training specifically to heal your anxious attachment and relationship anxiety. We cover topics in master classes like overthinking, overanalyzing, self-trust is happening. And if you are watching or listening to this episode and that specific training has passed, I'll put the links below, and we're working on a shop so that in the future you can purchase just single, one-off, maybe the master classes. We're still working on that, but it's coming. Okay, let's hit the mailbox. And Ruby says, having a need of my boyfriend to comfort me tends to happen most when he is busy or away. It triggers my loneliness, which then triggers a spiral of overthinking and anxiety. If this is something I want and need to have my boyfriend to want to care for me, the same I do to everyone, is this me triggering myself or his lack of initiating caring actions triggering me? So, Ruby, I say this with so much love that, hi, it's the drama, it's me. Hi, it's the drama, it's you. Now, and I say that because the first thing I'm seeing is that there is automatically a separation, meaning it's like him or it's me. And that is not going to be helpful for your relationship, okay? That's, it's not about the we, that's about you versus me, and like what's he doing and what am I doing? And so the place that I want to orient you to is what's happening over there for you, okay? And it's amazing to me because when I read these questions, like I get the download right away in the first question or in the first sentence. Having a need for my boyfriend to comfort me. Okay, so right there is something to look at. And I'm not saying having a person that gives you comfort, that gives you a compliment isn't great. But really the problem is where we make that the entree, okay? Really that should be the cherry on the cake, on the sundae, okay? But when, and I also just want to say having a need, okay? I feel like this is a totally different episode, but I want you to ask yourself, is this need, because when I'm just having a hint here that it's triggered by fear, okay? A lot of times when we have a real righteousness or we feel like this is really what I need, a lot of times it's coming from a place of fear. And I mean, you're already saying like it's triggering my loneliness. Loneliness is a fear that you won't be together. I mean, so I didn't say that he's moving away to a different country. So really this tells me that your need is being informed by fear, right? So I'm feeling lonely. I need him to comfort me. That is not a great place to uh to feel good. And here's also what I will say, okay? Here's how we know this isn't going to work. I'm going to just take a guess. Has he comforted you before? Okay? Just and ask yourself that if you're listening to this episode. Has he given you that before? Okay. Most of my community, the answer is yes. And so it hasn't worked, right? So you're asking for the same solution that feels good momentarily, but long term it's not lasting, right? It's not lasting. So then if it's not lasting, it's just a short-term thing. So what needs to happen is there needs to be a shift internally. So how are you able to comfort and self-soothe yourself? That is my first question. And I think because you're asking this question, you're in the Healing Girl gang. We're working on that together, okay? It takes time. But really it's in the awareness that where do I perceive this need coming from? Is it coming from a place of, wow, wholeness and regulation and groundedness, or is this activated by a fear? So that's a good way of distinguishing, is it a fear? Is it rational? And is this about me or is it about him? And most of the time it's us, because we are the creators of our reality. That's just the truth. So Ruby, more on that in our masterclasses. Also, make sure you check your mini workbook that you get within masterclasses, because we work through these different pieces in the Healing Girl gang. Okay, angels, I believe in you. You can break the cycle as long as you are bringing awareness, just like just did with Ruby here, and also you're willing for it to be challenging, because that's healing. Everybody deserves the right to heal, but it is earned. Okay? All right. I love you. Mwah.